time to practice. Time to prepare and practice. So having longer than 10 seconds to get better at something. Okay. Anything over here?
Yes. What kind of clapping they would use?
Okay. Hang on, folks. Hang on. Hang on. Just while we're listening in, because if we've already said yours, that's fine. Don't worry. It's not a test. Okay. So just say your one again.
What kind of clapping?
Right, so we might need to define, well, what kind of clapping? Is it just hands? Can we move about? What kind of clapping that we're looking at? So some definition. Here.
We were definition.
Definition again.
Criteria. Where do the definition?
And, oh, got
LTAD 10 years.
well,
10,000 hours of clapping.
No, it's a good joke, because I think some of them are at that point of retirement, aren't they? Yeah.
First, rules. Second, preparation period. 3, support. 4, pre-competition.
Just come back to the third one, support. And what did that mean for you? Support?
Support for the performance, support for training, support for
Guiding.
Oh, guiding. Oh, okay. So support. Yeah. So support. And although you were joking about the LTAD, hang on.
It's not so joking.
That's all right. No. Japs.
Washington.
Okay. You see, in a minute what happens is I go back to when I was an English teacher many years ago and had classes of 30, trying to teach them Romeo and Juliet on a Friday afternoon before they all just wanted to go home. So soon I start getting scary and shouting. But then you smile and I can't, you see. So that's how it goes. Okay, now I've completely lost my thread. So, I can't see one. No, LTAD, yes. So how much time do we need to prepare and practice? So if we want to be at the highest level, actually we need quite a lot of time to prepare to get to our place. And now, anything else that hasn't been said?
You want to research other clappers.
Ah, so you want to research other clappers?
Scouting.
Scouting. Ah, okay.
And we agree.
And yes, okay, and we agree with everything that's been said before, so. All right, Felipe. Oh, yeah, you said late night. Okay.
Incentives.
Incentives. Incentives would help. What kind of incentives for our hand clappers? What, money?
First class flight.
First class flight?
And also and support staff.
Support staff, me support staff, Apple store visits. Hang on.
We had the idea of specific areas. So we talk about specific coaching though. Detailed instruction, was that mentioned already?
Yeah, the instruction that they were given out there was deliberately vague. So actually, yeah, so to be much clearer about what is actually involved. Okay.
May I have some? Let me give a demonstration.
Sorry?
If they had received a demonstration.
If they had received a demonstration, that might have again in the bigger picture just.
What I captured from over here was support and guidance in the training and development of the hand clappers. So something that might come in here might have been the demonstration. So if this had been their kind of their learning programme, might have included a couple of demos in there. Okay.
We don't want to hurt your feelings, but Sarah, you really did a pretty bad job.
I did an appalling
It was
job.
very vague.
Oh, out there, yes, on purpose.
It was
And in here. No, she's trying very hard in
And
here.
here she's doing a good job. Good job. Yeah, great job.
Great job.
I won't tell you what Eric said.
Okay.
I have a question. Preparation and practice time. So if we think about this, what are some of the key considerations we need when we are structuring planning and preparation time? And let's keep thinking about hand clappers if you want to. So what else do they need in the planning and practice time to help them get better? Okay, so I need some, yep, so there's something here around personal performance goals. Yep. Need to know what I'm working towards, need to know how far that bar has been set.
They can do or not.
Yeah, and if I cannot do it, so my hand clapping is even worse than Barbara's, but I know I have got great potential. So if you're going to help me get better, what needs to happen?
Motivation.
Yeah? I've got loads of motivation. Got no problem with motivation. Training, development, and what's one thing you guys as coaches are going to have to facilitate What are you going to have to help me do?
Better performance.
Get better performance, how do I do that?
Physical
Physical
preparation.
Physical preparation, I'm in the peak of my career. Yeah?
Find out what you need.
What? Yes. Say that out loud and tell me what that means.
Like after I do everything, I need feedback from them.
Yeah, absolutely right. The planning and practice time here is absolutely key. I need to know what I am working towards in terms of these personal performance goals. And I also need some high quality feedback. Because I may not be very good at looking in the mirror and knowing what I'm doing wrong and being able to identify what I'm doing better, because I'm only a beginner hand clapper. If I was a seasoned hand clapper, might not need you quite so much. But there is something here around, if we are going to develop hand clappers, we need to build in opportunities for reflection. Pardon me? Yeah, that could almost sort of come in here. It's the competition.
So appropriate competition at appropriate time.
Yeah. And the
It's
other
on your
one,
list, definitely. I know, yeah, I can see that.
the other one I wanted to get in before we moved on is this high quality feedback. Well, if I were to cross this out, and say that we're not actually talking about hand clappers, we're now talking about coaches, what else would we need to have to think about to build into our system, to build into our development, to...
Education.
Okay, I think,
Oh, okay, it's already there.
well, no, that's... There has to be a programme of education.
Personality.
Personality, what do we mean by personality?
Hang on, there's
Hold
personality
fire,
somewhere.
hold fire, hold.
To build a good person with good thing, good habit, good.
Are you talking about my relationship with you? So if I am the, and let's call them the coach developer. If you're the coach and I'm the coach developer, so much like I wasn't doing outside. So are you talking about our relationship?
Yes. I mean, even as you as a coach, the coach can sometimes create the personality of the person
Yeah.
who's on the.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can either encourage that personality to flourish, or you can encourage that personality there. So there is something here around how successful we are has an awful lot to do with the relationships that we build. Yeah?
Yeah, expertise.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't. Can I go there and then come here? Or should we go ladies first?
Ladies first.
Ladies first, Robert Moore. You are absolutely right. You have got to, because you know as yourselves as coaches, you invest a massive amount of time getting to know your athletes. You need to know how they tick to make them work. It's exactly the same parallel. So there is something around relationships and there's something more around human behaviour, absolutely. Robert,
Your
sorry.
expertise as a coach.
Go on.
You don't know much about your subject matter or your sport, or you may have never been an athlete in that sport. You're not going to be as well qualified as
So
you should.
are we suggesting coaches need a level of technical competence or technical expertise?
I would think.
And I would say technical, and I'm going to use the word expertise, because competence often refers to physical competence. So there's almost an inference there that only great athletes will make great coaches, and that's not the case. Some of the very best swimming coaches can't swim, so technically not competent.
But to add on to that, but in my field I find that a lot of athletes don't really trust their coaches when their coaches have never been in a fight before. Because they're like, well, geez, how could he tell me this when he's never even thrown a kick at somebody?
Experience, you mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, because your athlete wants your coach to have experience in the ring. If you're a coach that have never stepped foot in a fight in the ring, they're going to look at you a little
I
differently.
agree with him. I agree with him.
And let's just sort of take this in the manner in which it's intended, because, and again, depending upon the levels at which we look at, and if we think about this, there are different levels. Let me just fly through these. So if we look at the coaching roles, and again, sorry if the writing's a bit rum, but this is in the book we're going to give you at the end. What has been developed and agreed by the international group is that there are a series of coaching roles that sit across 4 levels, from beginner coach to master coach. And there are an awful lot of sports who, when they are recruiting beginner coaches, and those beginner coaches typically are your eager parents, your volunteers, they don't need that level of technical expertise and competence, because actually all we're asking of them is to assist. They do what they're told to do.
But sometimes when it's that, Taekwondo is pretty skilled. You know, you don't learn the proper fundamentals, you're going to get injured right off the top. And in some cases, you can't ask. We can't ask parents to come in and act as an assistant coach, because if they don't know how to kick properly and all this kind of stuff, they're going to injure their students.
Yeah, and again, there is a caveat here. So certainly for a lot of the martial arts, there's always been a high requirement around technical competence. I know certainly when I look at the sports at home, golf was always one. There was always a perception that I needed to be hitting off 4 to be able to be a golf pro. Tennis certainly wanted a level of standard. And again, it will depend upon the sport. Each sport is unique. But what we're saying is that at the beginner levels, potentially I don't need as much technical expertise or competence as I might if I were operating at this level. Because typically this is level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And I would say all of you guys are operating at this level, aren't you? And,
May I say something?
of course, sir.
I have some opinion, but I don't know if it's right or no, but in modern sport in this time, we have only successful coaches and unsuccessful. Maybe this is very simple in 2 categories, but in any kind of the clubs or competition or sport, every time is different situation for one coach. So we may put this more pan of things what coach needs to do. But every situation is every club and every sport is different.
And that's exactly right. And that's the difference you face as a coach working with athletes as well. All of these sort of very personal differences.
Very, very specific and very, very complex.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to bounce something from Robert. I can understand his particular discipline and the technical expertise that is necessary. But if I view it at a different level, I have met people with master's degree who can teach even if you pay them. And there's a 60% teaching ability in coaching. So you could have someone who would have played in the NBA and a very good basketball player, but for heavens, he would not or she would not be able to transfer that knowledge to someone who wants to learn basketball. So I am not of the school of thought who really feels that if someone has been an Olympic star in a particular discipline, would always make a good coach.
Absolutely.
And again, this is a debate that could go on forever, but and it is, it's what we all talk about, and I'll share a bit of my sort of coach story in a second. But just to pull this back up again to a real big picture, this global framework that we're beginning to share with you and we all take away with you, the debates we're having here already think about trying to put together some sort of structure that can be applicable around the world in every single sport, right back to the tiniest village or place where you were going to coach. It's enormous. And when we start, even right back to that slide of looking at the definition, we could have carried on just unpicking those words. And our job and your job is to say, right, from the framework, where are we at in our sport, in our environment, back in our place at the minute? Where do we measure up? Do we want to do all those things? And we might not want to, we might not need to. Which bits do we want to focus on? So it's going to be a lens that helps you explore, and it will absolutely be about saying your sports, your countries will be taken into account, as opposed to saying this is what everybody must be doing all the same time. So that'll get clearer. Coming back to the coaching and the expertise bit, I mean, I played cricket internationally, and then I went on to be a coach. So I coached an academy side, so it would be like a young, sort of under 21 type side. And when I first went in to meet them, well, I'll be really honest, when I got the job, I know that the fact that I had played internationally and been relatively successful helped me get the job. It definitely helped me get the job. Having got the job, the girls I was coaching couldn't remember me playing really, or not really. And so much as I might have wanted to talk about my great exploits on the cricket field, and I tried, they didn't want to listen after about 25 seconds. And the only way that I kept the job was because I got better at being a coach, as opposed to better at being expert at playing. And so undeniably it helps, and if we can find people who are brilliant at their sport as players and have lived that life and can be brilliant coaches, fabulous, we're quits in. All we're saying, I think, is that there are other possible routes. We don't have to have been brilliant as a player or an athlete in order to be a great coach, and sometimes it's an actual hindrance for some. I'm going to go to Hutch and then we're going to take this on.
Just have a question.
Yeah.
When you find, or what have you discovered anything about, like, if an individual sport that requires technique, like taekwondo,
Yeah.
or if it's an individual sport like gymnastics or
Yeah.
table tennis, it would seem to me, at least, that having an expert who has been there, done that, might tend to be more important for that particular individual than a team sport. I was wondering if y'all had seen it, because a lot of times a coach of a team sport has not played all the positions. And so I was just wondering, have you seen anything on that as far as how that works?
I've seen both. I've seen people who are fabulous, who've been experts in their sport, with an individual sport, and start coaching at what you might call grassroots level and are fabulous at it. I've seen other people who may not have been the best exponents. Gymnastics is another one, where, again, they'll say, look, we need to get that technical competence in very early because of the injury situation. And so, again, you'll see both, and what we're not saying is, and what the framework isn't saying is, at level 1 you don't want technical expertise. For your sport, you might find that your technical benchmark is higher than some others, and that's fine. It's going to be a framework against which you can say, we're below that one there, but we're above that one here. It won't be about saying you've got to pull yours into being something that you don't want it to be. I'm going to go on, last point, Eric, and then we'll break.
Like,
and then we're going to break. You are lucky.
some sports like basketball,
Yeah.
there's situational experience which is needed. And
Yeah.
if you haven't played, it becomes difficult to tell a player what to do in the last 12 seconds of the game.
Well, okay, and I'm gonna because I can, because I'm here, I'm gonna say I get the last word for this bit, so great. I'm gonna say you'll find we can all pull lots of examples where we've all had fabulous coaches, people who have been there, done it, and that's been part of the reason we've respected them for it. There've been other coaches we've worked with that we think, do you know what? They haven't been the best player, but they really helped me get better than they were. Be it team sport, be it individual sport, they bring something, and I think we just have to be careful of saying there's one route and one pathway here, because you 31, 32 of you here have taken 32 different pathways to get here. There isn't one that fits everybody, is there, or one that is the right one. So we're going to have a look at what some of those might look like after the break.
Yeah, let's take, and again, take this in the spirit in which it's intended. What we've been looking at are the key considerations that we need to think about when developing coaches. Those considerations will change depending upon the level at which you are educating and developing coaches. The higher up we go, the more complex, the more challenging, the more difficult, the higher expectations we have. But if we think about the beginner coach, who we just are looking to harness that level of interest initially and help grow the sport, it's different. So we will continue looking at this. Let's take 10 minutes. Let's start again at the